Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering in Play. We are back in Space Engineers. We're continuing on in the build of this behemoth battleship here. So far no extreme laggies. So I was kind of expecting that at some point because this is getting to be a fairly large build. But I think it's going to be impressive by the time I finally get it working. So one of the things I'm toying with here is do I want a pod in the center here, which would possibly require the movement of the fighters bolted to the side here. Don't know if that will be necessary or not. I really have no idea. So at this point, I think I'm going to continue on as is and figure out how to make this thing really work. So one of the things I did was remove all of the energy weapons that were out here, and I want to kind of replace a lot of these with the Telian weapons, the MWI weapons, and it's gonna be a little bit of effort from the perspective of I really don't know where things are. So what I think I'm going to have to do ultimately is remove the batteries and kind of figure out where things are. But what I want to do is get the Telian, the fighter, anti-fighter weapons in here first, which I think will be a good idea. So the downside is with them powered up, they're going to, by default, they're going to be moving, and I really kind of despise that, but you know, it is been that way since the very beginning of the universe. So gotta just deal with it. Somewhere back here, so we have the one center line airlock back here, and I think that's going to most likely stay. Haven't decided exactly where that's going to go yet. I also need to basically airproof this space. So obviously I'm going to have to come into at least this point and then go across the front. The real question is, do I need to do anything out here, or do I just come straight across and in? I don't see really that there's any reason to do anything other than you know, make the bulkheads where they need to be. This is a huge space. Obviously it's a much larger space than what was originally intended, than what was originally here. So the real question is, what am I going to do with that space now that it actually exists? And what I was kind of thinking is maybe another set of assemblers back here, and in fact I could potentially put them back here. So it's possible I could stack 3 on each side back here and make something, or I could, you know, come right straight out the front here and have a big long chain of them. So don't know what's going to happen there yet. So I thought I would focus on the weapons. Now this is mirrored side to side, so as I change out the one side, then it will add on to the other side, but then I'll have to go to the bottom and do that as well. And what I want to do here is, so if we look here, this one little bit hard to see with the sun in our eyes, but for every top here we have a port that we can use, and I was thinking I would go ahead and put the anti-fighter weapons on here, and then as I find the there are tanks, which means there's going to be conveyors of some kind, and I think I can extend the conveyors and bring them up and put in, for example, this battery here, I think would be a good location. So the Telian anti-fighter will be here and here, and if this is correct, then I could bring this up and then put in an anti-missile turret here. So I think this may be, if I can do this consistently across, then I'll be okay, and that's my intention at this point. So I'm going to do these kind of one at a time, because structurally speaking, if we look at this rail here is out here, but it's connected on via these blocks. So as I remove these blocks, obviously I can't just go across, remove them all, and then put the guns back in. I'm going to have to remove a block at a time, put a weapon in. So we'll continue on with that methodology, because I don't want it to fall apart. So Italian Ismo here, and the anti-missile turret here. Six. And one of the things that I'm unaware of is which direction this was facing in, so I'm going to change this to facing out. Because I do want them all, in this case, facing aft. Now, as far as I can tell, these do have mount points on the sides, which is to say the sides of this base. So hopefully that is indeed the case, and I won't have any issues here. Okay, so it does appear as though all of those are in. We'll go ahead and put I'm going to put 3 more here to make this a set of 8. And I know 8 really doesn't make any sense next to the 10s and the 5s that are everywhere else, but oh well. Wrong way. So what I'm pondering is when I actually put this thing into the survival series, would be to create a skeleton version, which would then require effectively all of the resources to build. So I'm seriously toying with that idea to make this all work. Alright, so those guys are all in. Those are the anti-fighter turrets, which now give actually quite an arc on the bottom, because we have the anti-fire turrets, good. Anti-fighter turrets on the bottoms of the build here from the pods, and sorry, fall silent as I'm pondering here how I'm going to deal with this. This vessel may end up just being space-based, and I don't mind that. Not necessarily ideal, but and the other question is 8. This is not wide enough anywhere to actually put in, except for here, to put in a downwards facing. I could only do that across the bottom here, which might be prudent. Ultimately, I'm just going to have to figure out how to the other downside with putting them out the bottom here is that ultimately they're going to be, well, that's not necessarily the case. I was thinking I would ultimately have to put them down far enough that so they're either going to be 2 or 3 below the bottom here, and so I'm already 1, which means if I recess this down, well, why not? We are experimenting anyway. We'll either completely destroy things, so there's a quick save, and these batteries are not alright, so if I do this, actually I'm not gonna do it that way. I'm gonna do the grind color and have these guys and see what we got here. One of the other things that I don't think I did was actually turn these back ones on. So I put them in, I configured them, but I don't think I actually turned them on. Yeah, indeed, they're off. So this was the aft BRS system. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those off and then on. So this forces them into these modes, so even though it does say toggle, if they're off already, they will remain off and then they go back on. So that's you know, one of the things that creating groups and managing your groups, if you put it on a toolbar and you toggle, then you will truly toggle. If they're on and you toggle them off, then they go off. But if they're off and you toggle them expecting that you're going to turn them off, you actually turn them on. So it's wherever they happen to be, it is truly a toggle. Whereas on this panel, the control panel, you are truly in control of the state. So things to keep in mind. So the up and the down thrust may or may not be an issue. So here I'm going to have to go If I want my aft, you know, lateral force back here going down, then I'm going to have to recess these. So this guy is 1 block before these cannot fire directly aft. So I would have to recess the thrusters down at least 2 blocks. So let me go ahead and put one in for demonstration here. So this thing, let me try and get on the right button here. So this would have to be here at the minimum for this to work. And you know, I can't put this back here because there's no way to seal this to the environment. So putting something this far back would be a little bit problematic. But the fact that I would have to recess it this much may prove to be problematic in itself. So I do have to figure out how to redesign this whole section and possibly putting a door. You know, this may be a non-pressurized area. It may kind of come to that. So back to my grinding down and figuring out what I'm going to do down here. And this is kind of the same consideration, is that, you know, how far do I really want to take this? Do I want to go all the way down? You know, where do I want to go with everything? And in this case, I could put one here, but then I would have to remove that particular gun. Can't do anything here. Yeah, nothing out this far. So the farthest I could go would be right here. So technically I could put one centered here and one centered here and then one here. So we could do 6 downward. But I can't go behind this. So it would have to be at the 2, which means, it would have to be, you know, 1 deep, which means I'm going to have 2 up here for the cone itself, the cones. So that does change the dynamics here when it comes to if I were intending on landing this thing, then I'm now completely asymmetrical and I would have to build landing platforms up here, landing gear and such, to make that work. And I don't know how to do that. So this may be truly a space only type vessel by the time we're done. Nothing wrong with that. I did put the cargo transmitters in so I can get cargo up to this ship. Alright, so let's continue on at the bottom here as we're trying to figure out what to do. So ultimately we have a conveyor, we have this looks like a cross coming in, so we can leave that, and then the conveyor, and then I'm presuming that's a cross and a tank down there as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. And these are just batteries through here. So if I wanted to put in another so effectively what I would have to do here, this is a little risky. Alright, so this one ultimately would be a 5 if I were to change this completely out with So this would be the appropriate one here. Now the question mark is what did this do on this side, and we'll go ahead and shift over and look. Okay, that one did reverse the correct direction. This is a cross in here now, which may or may not be what we want. You know, I think I need to do, and I know I'm changing gears on you here, changing scripts, but ultimately I do need to figure out where does all this fit into the grand scheme of things. So we have this piece coming across here, and change back to our grind color here. So originally these were to connect the two sides, but they're actually all connected via here, so they should still be functional. This one here did indeed serve a purpose and is no longer okay, so these are connected in top and bottom, so I don't absolutely need to have these the way they are anymore. Considering the sheer number of build and repair systems that I have here, these things take a long time. Okay, so those are reversing correctly. The reason I'm doing this is mostly for aesthetics. So we have this airlock back here, and I just wanted to put this guy in, and then we're going to in fact do the same thing up here. So for we turn this sideways, we go back to this, and so we'll actually have two interconnectors across the back, which is fine. All right, and then we're gonna go up and do the downward view here, and we're gonna build these bulkhead edges. So in the end, what I want to do is seal this space. So this is the idea here, to ultimately, you know, seal this space off. And the question is, do I want to put a in fact, this is a good place for the air vent. So we're going to call this the aft engine room. Change the name on this one. This is 1. So the connections here are where things get a little bit, I don't want to say problematic, but interesting, because I have to figure out how I'm going to actually put all this stuff in. Do I go all the way over? You know, really, how do I incorporate all this in and yet make this space airtight? So ultimately, We have, let's go this way. So make the space a tiny bit larger, and then we're back to the normal size here. So my thoughts are that I would go to this bulkhead here and extend it out and then made it up, but what am I going to do about these? Huh. I think that means it's reboot time, because I just saw an error that didn't make any sense at all. Too many individual blocks in the world. I don't know if there's any reason to have two going up there. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and put in a T. Push 6 or a T. So if I put this in like this, multi-reference, oh darn, I didn't actually see what that said. And then this will be a 4. My slim block, let's see what that actually is. So, energy shields. All right, so energy shields are having issues. So this is a 4, a 3 and a 4 there. And I think with that having been said, I may be able to, is that, where is that? Alright, so the next one over should be my bulkhead. Should be right here. All right. Is that a? Yep. Fill in that little gap there. All right. So up here, kind of change the world a little bit. So I'm going to put these guys here. This is a temporary connection until I can really figure out how I want to do this. So we'll go up and then here, which should reconnect. Yeah. All right. So those should should be okay as far as supplying the hydrogen like they need to do, and then I'm going. Okay, I'm really trying to understand. All of a sudden these guys are no longer owned. Alright. Okay, so for right now those are turned off because obviously they're completely fucking everything up. But I might as well get these tuned in. So these are anti-fighter turrets, so they're going to be missiles off, neutrals off. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. That characters? Probably characters. Was my standardized alright, and then these are gonna go into turrets. There we go. Anti-fighter. So save, off on the toolbar, off on the terminal. So then I have to figure out what was going on here, and was that just the one side, and why did all of a sudden all of this change? So we have an identical vessel on this side of the ship that, nope, it shot this one up as well. So clearly what the fuck moment. Alright, so being that we are here, alright, F5 just to save, make sure. This one took a whole lot more damage on this side. A lot of pieces no longer connected, which is also adding to problems. So we have the camera, we have all of the computers here that are now disconnected. Alright, so dealing with those, unfortunately, just magically changed ownership. Don't know how that happened, don't know why that happened, but there it is. So one of the things I could do back here, which may not be a bad idea, is actually put in so let me change back to Tiger Orange. So this one is going to be upright. In fact, let me go ahead and put it here. So we'll take that out, that out. We will change this one. So this one is just a straight through connector, so we're going to change this, to a T. So when this connects in, it will actually provide a mount point. So this is turning aft, and then this is up. We'll do a number 4 here, which will then put a mount point out here to the surface. Block, 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 block. So my idea is I will put 2 anti-missile turrets back here, and then start blocking this area in here. There we go. So the question really is how many of the anti-missile turrets do I want here? And I'm kind of the mind that you can't have too many anti-missile turrets. I think I'm okay here, which would be, oops, that number 5, which would be this, and then a 4 on the top, which would create yet another, and then we're back to bulkhead ceiling here. So we already have our access point back there, which is good because it's underneath the gun, which is fairly well protected. So the question mark is, you know, what do we do in terms of, so let me go ahead and just kind of, my inclination here is to put the anti-missile batteries, anti-missile turrets back here. So the question is, how do I do that? Do I do that by mechanism? My inclination would be to plumb these in from the bottom here, so within the space, and I don't mind doing that to keep this armored up here, which I think is a good idea. So let me go ahead and just in case all of these, and then by the numbers, then there would be one more turret here. I think. All right, so now we're into the quandary of plumbing. So it's really just the matter of figuring out how we want to do the plumbing here. And given where everything is, I'm kind of inclined. I've done a combination of prosimian and others, so I think we'll continue on with that philosophy. Well, we have. Oh, okay, I know why that's there. So this would be a 5. And this is this one back here I know to be problematic, so this is a number 8. Which is this. So we want to turn that inbound as well as back and up. And let's see. Oh, that did rotate correctly, which is good. So ultimately, do we continue over this way to interconnect in, or these go to the same place ultimately? So let me go ahead and get this one back up, because I inadvertently killed it when I dismantled stuff back here. And at the same time, we're using the 2s to interconnect these in. And the real question at this point is, do I continue on with do I use the Alright, so this goes here. The standard conveyors to do everything we need to do. Obviously we need to do a T here that will then connect this. So do we keep these, or do we just go ahead with the connectors like we should? My inclination for this one is actually to go ahead and remove this, so this becomes a 5 up here, and then this becomes an 8, which will then connect in like this. So we have the one on the back which goes to the thruster, we have the one that continues outboard, and then we have the one that goes up. So we actually remove one of these from the world. This becomes a T, which rotates around, which rotates around like this. That way we interconnect, and then this one becomes a straight through like this, which then interconnects everything. These are already interconnected via the thruster, so all that is correct and appropriate. Alright, so everything now is plumbed. We have our cross connection points here, even though it took a long ways to get there. So I'm not going to be terribly redundant up here. We will let's go ahead and a little bit difficult to see where everything is, but we're going to go ahead and finalize the bulkheads down here. So light armor block, most of the stuff out here was heavy armor, but I'm being a little selective, obviously, in how I'm doing everything. Okay, so theoretically that should have changed. Yes, it did. Change the space over to green. Now it is a big space, so potentially I should put another really another several. So there are vents up here, which are good, and what I'm thinking is another set of vents. About right here. So we'll change this to 6. How about a 5? Yeah. And then we're going to spin those over just to get the indicators down a little bit lower. And then we'll put those there. Alright, in this case we're going to Control A, transfer to me, yes, and then we'll go down here and this becomes 3 and 4, even though the numbering scheme really doesn't mean anything at this point. Might be more appropriate aft engine room. Because engine room aft is different than aft engine room. For those of you who are actually familiar with naval engineering. When you designate something as aft, then obviously it's on the aft end of the ship. If you say engine room aft, then you're talking about the aft end of the engine room, not necessarily the aft engine room of the vessel. So, the designation there, I know that sounds really trivial, but it does actually mean something. So we'll put these into air vents, which is where they belong, off and off. So those should have disappeared. Yes, indeed. All right. So we have a lot of open space here now, which is good and bad. It's good because we can do stuff. It's bad because we can do stuff. All right. So F8. Which gets me out here. So I have tied up the bottom and find the vessel here. Okay, one of the things I did put up forward here, a little hard to find, but it's a medical bay, a mini medical bay, which means I can refuel and power back up. Alright, and then we head back to the back here. So ultimately 10 more anti-missile turrets. And then I want to figure out how to put in we were starting on the bottom here. So it was how to put in anything for here. So we have a tank and another tank. So I could put oh, no, I'm good. Okay, this one we need to change to a T. So swivel this one. So, yep, that one changes to a T. This one changes to a 5, which is just an elbow. So what we will accomplish here is to actually recess a large hydrogen thruster down right here. Unfortunately, there is no room to put another one anywhere else unless I sacrifice this, and then I can't recess that down. So it would only be on the surface here. So we can put one large thruster here, which would be so the bell would only come out one, and I think that is it. So the only other thing that we can possibly do is completely rework this bottom deck and have thrusters underneath this deck, which would then provide additional lift. So if we consider for a moment, we have 6 side thrusters to each side, so port and starboard. We have now 6, we have 8, 10 up thrusters. Right now we have 8 down thrusters. So if we are to mirror top to bottom what we're doing, then I have a little bit more work I need to do here. Let's go ahead and change to our grind color. Just like we did on the bottom. So this one goes, and this one goes. Yep. So this one became the 5. So 4, this one was the 5. I just have to figure out where. There it is. So that becomes a 5. This one was a T, which was there, and then this one was an angle, which will provide the connection point here, and grind down this battery. All right. So the question is what to do with this space. And I think because I removed all these different batteries, we're going to put them back in. So 2, 1. I don't know exactly how these batteries are in here, but 4, and then we'll go up and see. And then, like we did on the other side, we have, so I don't get burned. All right. Now we do have a problem here because this no longer is a viable location for, yeah, can't do that one. So I have to figure out what we did there. So I hate to break something inside, but and let me fly through the hole and see what was here. All right, so I can put a straight through there. That'll be fine. Redundant, entirely redundant, but so be it. Alright, so let me so that should have put the same thing on this side. Just want to make sure it actually did. Make sure my mirroring has not also failed. Alright, so I really did want 10 weapons there, but that was not going to happen apparently. So I'm holding off from the perspective of putting in the anti-missile turrets, and the reason is I need to figure out where there it is. So I want to come up right here, so this is going to be an angle, this is going to be 4, which will be here, and then another one here, and then this most likely will become a T. Yep, so the T, and then another 5, which will ultimately interconnect this. And then we have this here. Unfortunately, no other way to put one in the center here, but See, the interesting thing about the 3x3x1 is where to actually put them in, and I can't. Got no place to put them. Yeah, I've got no positions which will actually give me a 3x3 out here. So that's the last one that we can do, which is unfortunate. I really kind of wanted some other missile defense out here. So the only other thing that we could do is change the location of this and actually put some turret defense out here. But do we need a coupler out here? Do we need a the downside of this is it's going to hang out over a little bit. So I think we'll leave those there. Not ideal, not what I wanted, but as I say, it is what it is. Huh. You know what I also did? Is I'm using light armor blocks when I have heavy armor blocks, which is exactly what I want and need here. So this whole structure out here is heavy, so I kind of wanted to continue on with that particular venue of being heavy. So that is the upper portion. So now we'll have to do the same thing down here on the bottom. So this is somewhere down here. We'll do our creative grinding here. So this one became a T. Every time I turn the microphone off, I realize exactly how sensitive it is to everything. Plus, I have a fan running, which is actually part of the background noise. So rather than cough into the microphone here. All right, so this one, and I think. I don't know if I did that here. Let me look and see where I put that one. So it's one out from the base, directly across from the anti-fighter turret, which is to say right here. So we spin this one, we put a 4 here and a 4 there, which is to say a straight through, and that should be it. Okay, and then we are down to, and let's see if I can not do the same thing I did down there. So we have our heavy armor block to right there. Yep. Alright, I think that's done. But here's what we can do down here, which we could not do up top, is actually put a conveyor there. So we can put actually 1 or 2, anyway, anti-missile turrets down here at the bottom. I would definitely like to have a couple more anti-missile turrets down here at the bottom. Alright, I'm at 7 minutes over the hour, no surprise there. So, we'll use this moment to end this particular video. So, thank you for watching. This is Kenty Tiger signing off, and we'll catch you next time.